And so they're a keystone species where they occur at real consistent nut crop every year. High protein food for wildlife and humans, large nut crops. The nut crop is so large that the branches will be pulled down from the weight of those nuts. Think of it like an overloaded pear tree or an apple tree. And used to I'd only see a few nuts on trees. It's because the trees would be so far apart there was not good pollination. Now on the ends of some branches we have 20, and believe it or not, I had one last year, had 31 nuts on the end of one branch. And so very prolific nut production. Grew in real rocky, churty, acidic soils, very drought tolerant. I guess you all saw that yesterday. And so I'm glad that we were able to come up and see that. Blooms in late May, early June, usually around June 1 is peak. Wood very rot resistant and produces nuts in 3 to 5 years. This is something we did not know before. And a keystone species where it occurred at. It really, where this tree was at, it was a consistent nut crop, not just for people, but for wildlife. And there's some creatures, like in the Ozarks here, and even over in Oklahoma, like black bears. Black bears can eat a variety of food, but they're most dependent on the nut crop. And so if you have a year when you do not have a large crop of nuts, a sow bear, she will abort all the fetuses. And if it's in a year when you do have a good nut crop, as many as 2 to 5 fetuses will set on the wall of the uterus. And I was invited by Jeff Behringer to go on a bear den survey because of how important these trees were, not just to black bears, but all populations. You can look at white-tailed deer. If you have plenty of nuts for them, it's high protein like this, the fawns will weigh an extra ounce or 2. And they've done studies on that. I've been to deer studies, and it will register in a lot larger racks on down the road, 4 to 5 years. And you get a boom in population of rodents, mice, chipmunks, and squirrels, which means that snakes, owls, coyotes, foxes have larger litters in response to it. So it really does affect everything. And this is a picture from Oregon County. And one time somebody used this picture and they put it in a magazine article and they photoshopped the sweat off me. I'm not sugarcoating anything. It was 101 degrees when we were out there. And I don't think you were with me on this one. And this large trunk is in Oregon County. And all that's left of this trunk is there's a little bit of charred wood on the butt end of it right here, and that's it. They had a wildfire and it burned up most of those trunks.
Prescribed fire.
Prescribed fire, yeah. But you and me, Russ, we've taken a lot of pictures of these, and there's still a lot of old trunks there. Very rot-resistant wood. So I burned up a lot of shoe leather doing all this. So my question was, well, so where are the trees at? How come we're not seeing them? And I want to see some of these trees. So here's what I met with. And I'm not going to give any names though, but we have experts, AJ, that we hear in Missouri as well as other states, and this is what they said. And I'm glad my wife is here today because she can tell you how stubborn I am on a good project. If something's worthy of a good effort, I don't give up on it. And so I listened to what people told me, but I still kept looking. And I drove all the way down to the border of Missouri and Arkansas, and I met a gentleman down there that had some trees on his property, and it was pouring down rain, thunder, and lightning. And the moonroof on the top of my 4Runner started leaking. And I got up there and it's pouring down rain. He said, "You still want to do this?" And I said, "Yes." I drove all day to get down there to him. So an absolute thunder and lightning rainstorm. We drove out into the woods. And, you don't need to be out in the woods when it's thunder and lightning, first of all. And I ruined the camera that I bought for Angie taking pictures of this. But it was the first Ozark chinkapin tree I'd ever seen. And that's it right behind us right here. And I'm holding a burr that had some nuts, and I didn't realize at the time that they were not viable. And so this is another one of the things that was a moment that just lifted me up into the stratosphere. I thought, this is so awesome. And it's not a very big tree, but it was a tree, and it was not a stump sprout. And so then here's one in southwest Missouri, and for those of you that do fire, these trees were very fire loving. In fact, my hand is on I don't know if it's a sassafras there, but you see burn scars way up high. And just out of this picture right here, about this high, there was an oak, a red oak, and it had fire scars. The chinkapin stood out because they grow so fast, they heal over very quickly. And you can see how rocky and well drained that soil is there. And I had a friend of mine, he's with the American Chestnut Foundation in Tennessee, and he told me, he said, we did some cross-pollinating from one of our best trees onto what we thought was an Ozark chinkapin. And he said the tree is 21 inches DBH. I still got the email. And so my brother lives down in Alabama. I made a trip all the way down into Mississippi and Alabama to see these trees. And I got down there and come to find out that they made a mistake. And I think this is pretty common with American Chestnut Foundation. They say we got a 21-inch tree. Well, here in west of the river, we say 21-inch DBH. And they said, oh, he made a mistake. That was circumference. It was a little 7-inch tree. I'm like, oh my God. They were so excited about this tree. They wrote articles about it. We don't even add them to our database if they're tiny. And I'm like, you know, I grew up understanding, you know, we raised watermelons in Boot Hill. And there's no saying, you don't thump a free melon, like you don't check to see if it's ripe. You're just like, thank you for the watermelon. You don't check to see if it's ripe. And I'm like, oh, thank you, okay. I'm like, I drove all the way down here for that. But we found more of these. These are Ozark chinkapins in Alabama. We brought some of these back, and we still have some growing on our research plots that we have in northeast Dent County at Indian Trails. Me and Mike Leone set those up. And so anyhow, all this work that we do in these meetings, it's a lot of trouble, but when you get everybody together, there's a lot of networking taking place, and you can't do it online, you can't do it in emails. But if you're with someone, you'll make partnerships, you'll learn more, and that pushes the effort to save this tree forward. So anyhow, so I brought some back, and so the tree author of the Books of Alabama, I don't know if she went back and changed it or not. So that shows you that tree books, you know, they just have information that's reprinted. So if you go back to like me and AJ were talking about, when you have word of mouth, AJ, and we call that what again now?
Oral history.
Oral history. And the Cherokee Nation does that. Cherokee Nation is one of the few Native American tribes that have a written language. And me and AJ, we talked to several Native American tribes and found out some pretty cool stuff from it. And they had oral history. And AJ, do you care to tell about what the Osage Nation said about the Ozark chinkapin?
The Ozark, yeah, it's interesting to look at some of the different groups. The Cherokee have memories of what they actually did with the trees. They have some of that that's cultural back to the Appalachians dealing with the American chestnut, and they had some good information. When I interviewed someone from the Osage Nation, they said, we didn't do anything with that tree. And I said, you mean even with the people that were around you, you didn't trade amongst the groups of people? He said, we were at war with everybody. We didn't trade anything with them. So it was a much different attitude about the tree. And then I said, there was one Osage prehistoric site that had chinkapin wood identified in it, and their response was, you know, that doesn't surprise me, but I have to tell you, we have lost around 80 to 90% of the information that we have about these plants and their uses. So what she told me initially, I think, was told for truth, but she was also being truthful when she said there could be a lot of stuff we've lost, and there might be some things that historically and prehistorically our people used to do that we're never going to know. We're never going to know.
The place he's talking about is on the border of Missouri and Kansas, and it is over in kind of, if you were to go up, it's way up out of the range, and the archaeologist's name was Brown, and they did an archaeological dig on an Osage village site that had been there for a few thousand years, and they positively identified Ozark chinkapin wood with Osage artifact. And so I thought that was kind of neat. But then, you know, was it brought in? Was it already growing there? But it was enough to where that they saw a use for it, and they actually saved it. And AJ will show you some more things made from it. So here's some more trees. Me and Tim Smith, he works at Rowan River State Park, and the only Ozark chinkapin nature center on planet Earth. And he and I went out and we found this tree, and for 2 months, it was the state champion. It was the largest one. So then here's this gentleman sitting back here in the back, and Shane, you'll raise your hand up. So Shane found another tree. So we keep finding better and more trees. Here's one. This is Russ down in Oregon County. Here's another tree way up the canopy. And this is down in Arkansas, and you see big smiles on our faces right here. Here's another Ozark chinkapin. And here's Chris with a tree. Actually, his tree's bigger now, but it's about to die of the blight, I think. Is it not, Chris?
Yeah, it's dead.
Okay. And so, but the genetics of this one we saved, we did a lot of cross-pollinating. And here's Tim Smith. Here's on the roadside, another Ozark chinkapin. And let's see, and here's down in Mississippi, this the state champion. I've been to that tree. We got some pollen from it, but we got to go back and revisit it again. And Tim's not a small guy, is he? And so here he is by an Ozark chinkapin, and this is the Grand National Champion. And I'm looking over here at Shane, and there is so much I could tell all y'all. We don't have time today. But Shane has climbed out on these limbs, and just like Sean Smith has, and where's Sean at? And pollinated trees, and it's just taken a lot of work to do this. And the trees y'all, some of the trees y'all saw on the plot were from that. So we've got about 600 trees on research test plots today in 2 states, and it is, these genetics have been saved and crossed. And so here's another one in southwest Missouri, and here's one from East Texas. But we found out just this year that this particular tree had some foreign castanea in it. And as large as that tree is, we're going to have to pull up the 4 crosses that we have from a research test plot, because they are not pure Ozark chinkapin. And here's another one in northern Arkansas. Whenever we find one of these trees, it's better than any geocache you'll ever find. It's like, you'll see big smiles on our faces. If you go deer hunting, it'd be like killing a poking young buck. That's how big the thing this is. And whoops, there we go again. We're up to, we found 5 new trees this year. We lose some, but then we find other new ones. And so we keep saving genetics on those that make it to this size in a blighted forest. And this is Sean Smith right here. Very good. And let's see, so we're an organization of outdoor men and women who do not want to lose this once important tree to Ozarks. And our goal is to restore the Ozark chinkapin to its native range. And we're working to establish a viable seed base through research, cross-pollination of 100% pure Ozark chinkapin. And then the seed, we're making them available. It's been a lot of work to do this. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about what y'all said last time too. I've got a few ideas. But we have one member of the Ozark Chinkapin Foundation. You know, raise your hand up back here in the back. And who are you?
Andy Elder.
And that's your wife right there too?
Jane.
Okay. And Andy, how long have you been paying your membership? I've been sending you seed?
Well, since
2011.
Yeah.
2011. Okay, so he's going to tell us a little bit later on about his experience as a member. So the members have been paying $30 a month for their membership, and so we've been keeping track of all that.
That's like the diameter of that tree, $30 a year.
Well, I missed something right there.
Oh,
Yeah, everybody
$30
laughing.
a month. I was
You
thinking
said a
of
month.
that-
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was thinking of that 21-inch diameter.
We'll be drinking some coffee a little bit later on.
I wanted to ask you, Steve, where do you think the diameter of a watermelon really is? Circumference.
There you go. But yeah, so there's a lot going on here. So we're doing this work on research test plots, and then we have members that we're putting seed in the hands of, and they're becoming experts at growing these. So once we have a finished product, people like them, you know, every year we give them better genetics. So there's a lot going on at one time right here.